Welcome to the Realizations Podcast. I'm Andrea Gordon, your host, and I'm excited to explore the world of real estate with you. In a world where perceptions often overshadow reality, Realizations seeks to redefine what it means to be a realtor. Join me as we peel back the layers of the industry, uncovering inspiring stories and celebrating the good in real estate. Whether you're a homeowner, a fellow realtor, or simply curious, this podcast is for you. Welcome to Realizations, where perceptions meet reality. Let's dive right in. Hello, everyone. This is Andrea Gordon. I'm your host of Realizations, the podcast. Just a little background on Realizations. I founded this podcast because I got really pissed off about the NAR DOJ lawsuits and the commission lawsuits and was angry that people didn't respect realtors. And then I thought about it and thought, that's not healthy for me to stay angry. Rather than stay angry, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to get to the root of why it is this is even happening. And what I figured out is that the American public doesn't know what we do. They have no idea who we deal with. They have no idea what is involved in real estate. They watch all these reality TV shows and they see people go like this and they've sold a house. But the reality is, real estate is an incredibly complex job. It's also a job where there are all kinds of opportunities and there's work for everyone. You can be an engineer type and you'll meet engineering clients. You can be loquacious like me and meet other people that are like to tell stories, what have you. Everybody has a realtor and every realtor works with everybody if they possibly can. So welcome to the show, Ryan. This is a wonderful opportunity for me to talk to somebody who's in Kentucky. And I think I might have driven through Kentucky once, but I'm not sure. I've been across country many times in a car. So let me know a little bit about you and how you got to doing what you're doing. And you and I were chatting before the podcast saying that you had many lives before real estate. So I'd love to hear a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. Whenever I got my degree whenever I graduated college, I graduated with finance and real estate. Loved it, loved learning about it, did appraisals for a while right out of college, decided that wasn't necessarily the stable path and had a family. And I decided I'm not going to sell real estate because you don't have to have a degree for that. So why did I go my brilliance of my 20s? So I ended up in the medical field in the sales capacity. I was director of communications for a startup company that exited and found a way. I was in the pharmaceutical and I was actually number one in the country. And the company just said, you know what? We've had certain drugs go generic, blah, blah, blah. Everybody stay at home from president down to the minuscule person, and you'll get a call and let you know if you have your job. We're doing away with 40% of the company today.
Yep.
And lady called me and I just happened to not make the cut because they just threw everybody into a number and turned them into a number. And then they spit those back out and made us into real people again. And I decided at that point, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go into something that nobody can take it away from me. You may not like me, and Mr. Broker, you may not want to work with me, but at least it's my career and I can drive it. But I had a lot of success and I took a lot of what I learned throughout that and then building companies and realized that's the only true way you can be successful in real estate, because nobody's going to hand you anything. And
correct.
It doesn't matter which company you work with. It's all about what you decide to produce yourself.
Absolutely.
And then once I started real estate around 2017, and I've really never looked back. I've just loved it the whole time.
Great. And you're a team lead now with EXP. So how many people in your team?
I have got a total of 5 that work with me. I have 3 agents, and then I have 2 assistants, one that works for me directly, one that works for the team that helps drive some of their back end functions and those kind of things. So we cover Kentucky and Ohio.
Got it. And I have a question I'm always curious about people that choose to work in teams. I'm an individual agent. I'm a top producer. I've been a realtor for 27 years. And I do have people that work for me. I like to have a staff rather than have a team. Do you find yourself having to mentor and answer questions and teach a lot, or are you working with more experienced people?
Well, to me, that's what a team lead is, right? So the beautiful thing about a team is you get to build it in whatever fashion you want. I'm an educator. I love to help people. I love to train. I love to do those things. So I focused my entire building of the team with people that's coming in that really want to learn how to run a business, that want mentorship, they want training, they want someone that's going to help encourage them, show them how to build goals, how to take those goals down, how to build systems. I'm not going to throw out leads. To me, that's the worst thing you can do as a leader is if you're providing leads, that's all they're going to do. They're not leading anything. I approached my team very different than a lot of people because I want to help teach them how to get their own leads, go out and drive the business. I was getting to the point, I did this myself without a team for probably about 4 or 5 years of the time that I had my license. And I got to the point where I'm doing 80 to 100. One year I did 120 deals myself with no assistance, no nothing. So I know what it takes to hustle. I know what it takes to grind. And it's all about those systems. And then once I had the systems built, why not go ahead and start building out some opportunities for some newer agents to bring in, or even the amount of seasons agents that I've had come in for a little bit of time frame has been pretty high as well, because if you have your license, you could have your license for 10 years. And if I've had my license for 2 years and I've done twice as many deals as you've done as 10 years, there's probably a gap there that's an opportunity. And that's not always the case, but I mean, there's all different types of agents and experiences and what they want to get out of it, and depending on their phase of life.
Exactly. I've done over 1,000 transactions at this point in my career, and every transaction's different, and you learn a little bit of something from every single transaction. So in some ways, you can always learn new things. It doesn't matter how seasoned you are. There's always going to be something that comes up that you go, oh, okay, all right.
And I would challenge it. That is the reason that we have an 80 to 90% failure rate within the industry within the first couple of years, is that people don't come into this thinking, okay, I got to continuously be learning. That's the amount of education and the amount of money that I put towards just that facet of myself personally and my team is astronomical in regards to continuing to learn, making sure that we're going to conferences and really leaning into any learning opportunities that we have, because everything's changing. What
always
worked 2 years ago, it was funny because I would tell a lot of people that I was talking to, like, for us in Kentucky, COVID was very different. Like we had a stall for about 30 days, maybe 3 weeks to 30 days. Like, okay, what's going to happen? And then it loosened up, and we were one of those that were allowed to get out there and still work with some parameters. And then it was like the faucet flipped on. If you had a pulse, you could have sold real estate during that time frame just by answering the phone. And then we came out of that last year and it was totally different. So it's okay, now this is why we continue to learn. This is why you have the skill set. So
I've been through 3 economic downturns as a realtor, and all of them were unpredictable in differing ways. And what happened during them was different. And in 2007, I was at a house that had a panoramic view of the bay, that had an incredible garden. It was a mid-century modern. It was exquisite. It was on a private drive. And I was having a Sunday open house and no one was coming. And there was a lady down the street who was also at an open house. And I called her. I knew her. Everybody knows everybody. You know how that goes.
Yeah.
And I asked her, are you getting any traffic? And she said, I haven't had a single person. And I was like, I haven't either. And it was like this overwhelming feeling of, ooh, what the hell is going on here? And then within about 2 to 3 weeks, the news cycle, of course, starts, because you know how the news is always late on everything. They start pointing out that there's a big problem going on in real estate. And then everything just tanked right after that. But me being me at that point in time, I thought, okay, how can I continue to make money in this cycle? And so I connected with a bunch of banks. And I became a salesperson for what are called REOs, real estate owned by the bank. I found ways to make things work. And ever since then, I've been very nimble in my career, thinking, okay, who's on top right now? Is it buyers or sellers? Where do you put your focus and energy? How do you turn this into a success? So I have made money during every downturn because I was able to pivot. And I actually increased my marketing during those downturns, because I thought, if I'm the last man standing at the end of the day with my marketing, then people are going to point to that and go, oh, she's good. She knows what she's doing. I've gone against the grain. And when I watch people like, what is his name? The wonderful older gentleman who's a financial wizard for Berkshire Hathaway.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
always want to say Rupert Murdoch, but it's not Rupert Murdoch. It's what is his name? Anyway, he will always buy in downturns and he will make sure he has cash ready for expended. The man is really sharp. And what he does is he stays ahead
Warren
of
Buffett.
Warren Buffett. Thank you. I knew one of us would remember at 3 o'clock in the morning. Warren Buffett, he always makes sure he's slightly ahead of the curve. So if the market is trending downwards, he's already 6 months ahead of that. And I think that's where we all have to be too. Realtors have to study economics. We have to read the paper. We have to know what's going on in the other part of the world. It's like the butterfly effect. If something's going on in China, we're going to hear about it in real estate. It will affect us eventually. These tariffs that are coming down the pike, they're not here yet. They've been put off for now. But if they ever do actually get enacted, construction materials are going to get very expensive. So you have to start planning and thinking ahead of what's going on so that you can be prepared to work with your clients and give them proper advice in the moment about things like that.
Yeah, I think the only thing that I see that is a little bit of a caveat to that is not think so nationally, right? Because here's the thing that I seen in like our market, and it was because we're not a destination, so there's not a lot of people that's coming in and out, so we don't feel what the national does. I remember in 2018, I had a house that was just 2 hours away in a bit, but it was a much bigger city. And in 2009, whenever the market crashed, right, went down, that particular property there in 2 hours away lost about $30,000 to $40,000 of value overnight whenever the market crashed. Ashland, about 3,000 to 4,000. It was basically nothing. Yeah. And I've watched those kind of trends and researched and know what our market does is not going to be the same thing that it does nationally. So I think that it's funny that you said that, because I figured one of the better things to try to get around to talking to is you have to know your market. You have
absolutely. To know your local market. Absolutely.
And you have to know what's going on national, because that's what people are going to think is happening everywhere. But the amount of clients that'll be impressed with you if you're able to speak to, okay, yeah, this is here, but here's some actual things that we're seeing here locally and why this will or won't happen, or never giving guarantees, obviously, but at least what we're seeing. So that way you can either help put them at ease, or on the flip side, help them be more cautious if that's what is warranted for the situation.
No, absolutely. Staying ahead of the statistics that are specific to your area is really important. And at Compass, we're very blessed and fortunate. He's been on my show to have a statistician who gives us all of the numbers on everything from condo sales to single family homes, all the areas broken down into individual neighborhoods.
Sure.
And one of the things that's interesting where I am is that the neighborhoods that we have, you can drive 4 blocks and you're in a new neighborhood. It's very weird. Oakland is broken up into so many little different neighborhoods, and they genuinely have their own personality and take on things. In our area, we have Piedmont, which is like for example, to your point, when we had the gigantic economic downturn, parts of Oakland went down 50%. Piedmont went down 3%. Because it's famous for the schools. It's also a very high-end place. Berkeley stayed of great value, but certain portions of it went down between 10 and 20%, depending on where they were in relationship to Oakland. Oakland had a much harder time during that downturn. So knowing and being aware of those sorts of things and understanding whether your client's going to want to hold or whether this is a short-term thing for them. Being near a university, I very frequently have sellers who are parents who bought a condo for their kids so that they could live there while they were going to school. Or I'll have the other side, which is parents wanting to buy a condo for their kids who are going to go to school because it's way less expensive than having them live in the dorms. Also way more rowdy, I must say. But in any case, knowing and understanding your local hood is super important. I agree with you fully on that. And also knowing and understanding where your business is coming from. I live where I am is a port city. It's where there is a lot of international travel into the Bay Area, and understanding who's coming over. So it'll affect me in terms of my marketing. Sometimes
Mhm.
I might translate my marketing materials into Chinese if that's majorly who's coming in. Some
Yes.
years it's French people, some years it's German people. So I try to research all of those things in my marketing. Now I thought it was interesting what you said about your place not being a destination city where you can get to know and understand all the people that live there probably a lot more fully than you can here because we're such a huge
Yeah.
place. How many people live in the main area that you serve?
Because of the way that it's a little bit of a rural area, we're covering counties is the way that we're set up. So it may be an hour and a half radius, that I will go as far off to an hour and a half to show a person a property. And I'm still going to only have about 50,000 people that even reaching out to that. And a lot of those you're going to have like little townships that you drive through and that doesn't have a red light or anything. And it's may have 1,500 people there. It's a unique, cool Eastern Kentucky kind of thing. And Ashland is one of the quote unquote bigger cities in Kentucky, but really the majority of the population is in Lexington and Louisville and some of those bigger cities and in Western Kentucky. And then Ashland is, like I said, it's probably the fifth or sixth largest city in Kentucky, but that shows you how many little smaller cities that we have along the way.
Wow. And did you grow up in Kentucky?
Yes, yeah, I grew up in this area. I moved away, swore I would never come back, and life does what it does. And you ended up coming back here about 15 years after I left. But
Wow.
my family's here. It was interesting though, because you move away for 15 years and I come back, nothing had really changed like structurally and all that it was kind of stayed in the same, but I didn't really know anybody. I knew my family, but there wasn't like bunch of people I grew up from high school or any of that kind of stuff. Even though grew up here and I know all of the area, whenever I first started selling real estate, it was basically as though I might as well move to where you're at and started.
That's so funny. And
Was
yet, with things like Facebook, like I am literally friends at this point in my life with people that I was in kindergarten with.
yeah.
And we've all moved all over the world, and some people have come back and some people haven't. I have friends and a lot of people have retired to Portugal and places like that, but we're back being friends, which is it's an interesting thing. That's the one really good thing I think about social media beyond its ability to advertise our wares. I think that staying connected with people is a really important thing. Like I literally every day when I see the birthdays come up, I literally click on every single one and write my own little
Mm-hmm.
note on it because it makes you feel good when it's your birthday and people respond to it. It makes you feel connected. And I think that's one of the things that's problematic right now in our whole world, actually, is how isolated and disconnected people can feel. The pandemic did a lot of things to people that made us feel isolated and disconnected. People not going into the office any longer. Part of my life is not just in real estate. I also work a lot in the theater. And theaters basically just stopped during that time period.
Yeah.
And so getting to the place where you're reconnecting with other humans, I think it's been very humbling and very powerful for everybody coming out of the pandemic. I know that, as you say, your area was not that affected. Ours, we had the similar thing where in 2020 and 2021, the market was insane. I sold $112 million worth of real estate personally in 2021. My average is more like 60 or 70 million. And by the way, that was the same number of transactions, I will also say. So it's just that prices jumped up that much.
Yeah.
Prices are considerably down. In 2024, I heard a stat that blew my mind. 71% of realtors did not make a single sale.
Yeah.
Did you know that? Yeah, that's crazy. So it's a hard business. It's hard to make your way. It's incredibly rewarding. It also affords us the ability to be charitable with different organizations in our communities. Do you work with any charitable organizations? Are you involved in any of that?
Yeah, I'm really heavily focused, or the last couple of years I've been really heavily focused with in schools. I have like one of the recent local high school, I went in and bought new chairs for the entire indoor sports and sponsored the entire sports and billboards and different things, like all this kind of stuff just for that particular sport. And we started a program that we had to sunset a little bit during the COVID years, and we're trying to get it resurfaced just because we couldn't go into schools and things of that nature. But it was this program that basically, it was called EXP Gives Back, but it was basically myself and few people I could rally, and I'd partner with lenders, and we would go in and we would basically just pull the teachers' names out of a hat, and we would hand them a $150 check, and it would not go to the school, because I have family members that are superintendents and principals and those kind of things. And they're like, listen, if you give this to the school, we will appreciate it. But that means if we got 50 teachers, each teacher gets $10 or whatever, because they have to be split up. But if you want to give it to them individually, that's fine. So that's what we did. And we're like, just tell them, hey, you've already bought a bunch of stuff. You've had to buy tissues, or you've bought things. Take yourself to dinner or use it towards whatever you want to do. But we gave no restrictions. And we were, by the time before COVID, we actually had 3 school systems that were in that. And I think the last year we had given as many of almost 25 or 30 different teachers that were getting $150 to $200 individually that we were doing. That has really been my focus. Now I was a director of a CARES organization, which is a local outreach program that kind of helps people that have a bad month or something like that, and they can't pay their bill or they lose a job, and they would give them the bridge and do things to help them through that bump just to get to the next level. Yeah, I'm pretty well vested in trying to find ways to help the community, and doing that in different and creative ways versus it's always just not writing a check. And that's great. Sometimes that's what people want to do and they're happy. And sometimes it's actually getting involved and getting your hands dirty a little bit.
No, absolutely. That's absolutely wonderful. You are a delight. This has been really fun to talk to you. And you have a podcast yourself that you work on. What's the name of the podcast and where can people find it?
Yeah, it is not a real estate podcast, so people can come and expect to laugh at me more times than not, but it's called Two Guys, Two Questions. And basically the premise is pretty simple. It's just me and a guy that we've known each other for 30 years and both professionals in totally different avenues. And we don't tell what the other question is. And it's interesting because it'll be from like, what superhero vibe do I give you to what portion in history would you like to go? And somehow they always end up into getting into the weeds. Just, you reminded me of Papaw or something like that. So it's genuine conversations. Sometimes real estate and those kind of things come up just because that's what we do. But yeah, that Two Guys, Two Questions, and it's on Apple and Spotify and everywhere.
Awesome. And if somebody wants your real estate services, where can they find you?
Yeah, I am on Facebook, Instagram. My website is Sold Via Ryan. I cover Kentucky and pretty much most of Ohio from Columbus down towards us. And then I cover pretty much everything east of Lexington if it's somebody that comes to me, because I do have, just by nature of my business and by nature of many of the opportunities I've had to speak elsewhere, I get a lot of people that are moving here from out of state. And once they talk to me, they don't want to go anywhere else. They want to have that. I've sold in every portion of the state of Kentucky. I've driven 7 hours to sell properties. In the right situation, I'm going to do what I can to help somebody out.
Very great. Thank you very much today, Ryan. I really appreciate you coming on the show. I love having realtors from other parts of the country because everything is so different everywhere that I think it's important for my audience to see that real estate is always local. Real estate is always specific, and real estate is always human. Thank you. Have a wonderful rest of your day, okay?
All right. Thank you.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Realizations Podcast. I hope our conversation has shed light on the true essence of real estate and the people behind it. As we wrap up, I want to extend my gratitude to our listeners for their support and engagement. Your feedback drives the heart of this podcast, and I look forward to continuing this journey with you. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider subscribing to the Realizations Podcast and leaving a review. Your support helps us reach more listeners and spread our message of positivity in the real estate industry. Until next time, remember to keep an open mind, embrace empathy, and always seek the good in every situation. I'm Andrea Gordon, signing off from Realizations. See you next time.